So our first step is going to be cutting the rope. For this project, I used 70 inches of rope 2 times. Once you've done this with 2 separate ropes, you're going to want to take the core out of it. So to do this, what we're going to do is we're going to smack the end a little bit and we're going to grab all of the core. So for this one, it's all of the white threads, and we're going to grab those and we're going to lay our rope out semi-flat. So I push it off to the side here and we're going to slowly pull out all of the core together. The more you take your time with this, the better it'll come out. For different ropes, the core will come out differently. For this rope, it came out pretty easily, but for some other ropes, it comes out with a lot more effort. After this, I like to flatten them out with my hands. So I'm just going to pull along the rope, both strands, to kind of flatten it out. I'm going to do this 1 or 2 times just to help it feed through the sewing machine easier a little bit later on. They don't need to be fully flat, but just a little more flat than right as they have the core taken out. Once you've got these ready to go, you're going to set up your machine. So here I'm just putting thread in the bottom and I'm threading the top as well. So here you can see exactly what I use. So I use a zigzag stitch on my machine, and I also use a really wide width as far as I can go on this one, and I use a shorter length. So this is good for thicker fabrics for my machine, and I also use a slightly bigger needle. I'm not a professional on this, but this might be worth looking into. So we're going to grab our 2 ropes and we're just going to line them up side by side, and we're going to put them under the machine and just get started sewing. I like to make sure that both ropes are in about the same spot so that my stitch is going through the same parts of the rope all the way throughout to make it really nice and clean. Do make sure that this is not too thick of a material for your machine. For some machines, it's recommended to maybe use a bigger needle or to not do this, or to use a wider stitch or maybe a longer or shorter length. So go ahead and check that out for your machine. And you'll stitch all the way until you get to the end, and then I like to do a little back stitch when I get to the end, and also at the beginning I do a back stitch sometimes. At this point, I like to cut off little excess pieces and burn it. Our next step is going to be to burn both ends of this rope. So for this step, I always do it outside. Since I do this a bit for my business, I have a mask, and I'll show you here what I usually use. When burning stuff and inhaling fumes, I think it's good to just be a little cautious and see what exactly you're inhaling and what you can do for your own health. I'm using my rope gun here, but this isn't necessary. You can also use painter's tape and just tape off the area where you want to cut, and then use a lighter and burn it through that way. I've heard that's good. You can also find other ways to do this. So we're going to make sure to cut and burn both edges, however way you'd like to do. We just don't want this unraveling later on for our project. So we're going to use 2 D-rings also for this project. They're a little bit oversized, and I find this works well for the yoga mat straps. So to do this, we are going to take one of our ends and we're going to put the D-ring through it like so. And then we're going to turn it around upside down, and as you can see here, I am pulling it through the D-ring again and then holding it tight here. And this area right here is where we're going to end up sewing. So to sew this, I'm going to go back and forth twice. So once with a stitch and then a back stitch, just to keep it really nice and secure. Throughout this entire process, I will be using the same zigzag stitch and settings. So you can see here the stitch I use and how I went back over it. You can also see the mechanics of how this will work on the yoga mat, back and forth like this. And we're now going to grab our other end of the rope and we're going to do the same thing. So through the D-ring, and then I like to turn it upside down. And we're going to go in the same way and hold right here where I have my thumbs, and this is where we're going to stitch again, stitch, and then a nice back stitch, a little more if you'd like. And once we've gone back and forth and finished that, I'm going to go ahead and cut it off, and I'm once again going to burn the little ends and take care of any other loose threads before we finish. As you can see here, I have both of my finished pieces, and you can see the mechanics of how it will go on and off of the yoga mat, and I'll show you the finished product in a nice little video. These straps are super easy to use. They're really easily adjustable. You just make space, put your yoga mat in, and then put it over your shoulder, or however else you'd like to carry it. The size is also adjustable. You can make different size straps for maybe someone really tall or maybe someone shorter like a child. And you can also use these for a bunch of different things. I use upcycled ropes to make these, and I hope other people also are able to make these and find this video helpful for rope related crafts or other materials. This can work for a variety of things with the basics. If you're interested in seeing more stuff like this, I'm going to be making more videos on how to do other crafts with upcycled climbing rope, and I also have a business, Lucky Fish Upcycling, that you can check out from the link in my bio or from looking at my website. If you have any other crafts you're interested in seeing, or if you have any questions in this video, please leave a comment and I'll get back to you. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope this was helpful.